Hey, and welcome to my little video about why I love the Nintendo Wii so much. This is not a video to tell you should enjoy the Wii. I just want to tell you a little bit about why I love it and maybe some games that you should also check out yourself if you never gave them a chance. So hopefully this video can maybe, even if it just turns one person into a Wii lever, sorry that was weird and bad, that is enough for me. So let's get right into it. Remember Iwata's famous quote, "You won a revolution"? Well, we got one. He really wasn't joking when he said it and just pulled it out of his jacket pocket. When I was a kid, I was so hyped for the revolution when they first showed it off at E3 2005. It just looked so cute and cool and tiny in comparison to the other next-gen consoles. The design was kinda all they showed at that time. They shared a little bit more about online play, you can have backwards compatibility, what later became the Virtual Console, and especially they kept the controller really hidden till a few months later and revealed it at the Tokyo Game Show 2005. But before I talk about the controllers, which are like the most important part about the Wii, I just want to talk a little bit more about the design of the console when you just look at it. Yep, those are two pictures of my own Wii that I got at launch. Well, at Christmas, but the same release year, so this thing is 15 years old and time freaking flies way too fast, sadly. Also, please ignore the Razer sticker, because back in the day Razer was super cool and for super cool gamers, and I just thought, hey, just put this Razer sticker on my Wii. Why the heck not? For me, the Wii is still the most attractive console to this day. Is it even a good word to use for a console, attractive? Like, I'm not sexually a Wii spade, but there's certain things about it that make me maybe go pop something. But anyways, it's so small and compact and you can just fit it anywhere because of that. You can put it on its side and it looks nice. You can let it stand around normally and it looks perfect, how we can see it here on the side. And you could also tape it onto the wall and it would make people think, wow, the future is here. Even if you absolutely hate the Wii, it's impossible to hate it for its looks. Many people back in the day hated the console for what's inside the little box, but never have I seen a person say it's ugly. So to many people it's like a 10 out of 10 woman that you may see at the club, but then it turns out to a 2 out of 10 because her personality just kinda sucks. And maybe she even turns out to be a serial killer and murders you, but you still kinda enjoyed it because she was kinda hot. For example, let's just compare to the GameCube. The GameCube is a cube. You can look at it and you think, wow, that certainly is a cube, and you game with it. So it's called a GameCube. Also, you could literally kill someone with it. Just grab the handle and smash it on someone's head. So the meaning of, hey, wanna play some Smash Bros. Kinda gets a whole new meaning. So while GameCube was a cool looking console and it has a very unique own style, it just kinda makes you think, yeah, that's certainly a cube. And as a little bonus, even the UI of the console looked really clean itself. Nothing really special, but it just fit the style of the console and all those users channels like the weather channel or the channel where everyone could vote for their favorite whatever the heck, favorite dog, favorite cat, favorite pizza, favorite anything, were kinda novel ideas. Obviously they were kinda like, yeah, what am I doing here even, but they were kinda to mess around with every once in a while. And on top of that, the Wii looked even better with the blue light shining out of the CD tray when you got a mail or anything else. Like when someone else sent you a message, you would see it because of the light. And sometimes I just told someone, hey, send me a message, I won't read it, so I will keep the blue light forever because it's so pretty. But obviously for people who don't like colors, just read the message, I guess. Now, let's talk about the controllers. I'm saying controllers because there's a lot of variety of controllers you could use on your Wii. There's a Wii mode, plus Nunchuck obviously, the classic controller, and the GameCube controller, which you could also use for some Wii games, but mostly was for playing GameCube games on your Wii. I think the later Wii's also disabled this, like you couldn't play GameCube games anymore, but if you got a launch Wii, you can just easily play GameCube games on them and easily put some GameCube controller on top of them, and it kind of looks like a gangbang of controllers if you stick 4 GameCube controllers into the console. And yeah, um, yeah. When I first saw the controllers when it was unveiled, I was thinking, what the heck? How can that be a controller for a video game console? It's a freaking remote. But I was still stunned by its newness. For the first time in my life, the console felt a little bit more next gen from aside the graphics. Like, I never grew up with console that made me think, wow, this is totally new. Obviously, I lived through the jump from like the Super Nintendo to the Nintendo 64, from Nintendo 64 to GameCube. Obviously, graphics always looked better, but it was more like video games. The first video you got of the controller didn't even show any games of it, just basically showed how it can be used. Like, you can whip the Wiimote to make Mario jump, you can play tennis with it, showing a montage of like people using it in different ways on how you could use it in the game, fishing, tennis, doing your job as a dentist. The possibilities were endless. Sadly, we all know that some games never really took advantage of it. Sometimes even Nintendo themselves didn't know. Like, if you look at Mario Galaxy, it didn't really do anything in that game, but still, it was still just a new experience, and it worked not perfectly all the time, but most games worked really well with it, especially something like the Metroid Prime trilogy, which made the games even better. Metroid Prime 1, masterpiece, 2, masterpiece, 3 masterpieces in a trilogy, but even better than it was before. With all the aiming and, shooters were kind of fun. Even the Call of Duty 4 version on the Wii was really fun just because of the controller. It looked like poop, but it played better than the original. That's a hot take, and I will stand for that hot take. And I want to shove a Wiimote deep inside my... For me, the biggest reason why I love a console is the games. I don't care about the UI of a console as long as it's not lame and clunky or anything else really. Like, I don't need Netflix on my console. I don't need a multimedia kind of console that can do anything except having great games, because that's what I play on a console for. I want the good games. Obviously, many people buy Nintendo consoles for Nintendo games themselves. So first off, I'm going to talk about those games, mostly published games by Nintendo or games made by Nintendo. And then afterwards, I will talk about the third-party games. And also another thing that really concerns me about the later Nintendo consoles like the Wii U and the Switch right now, and maybe the future ones too. Also, couldn't really find a good stock image, photo, whatever the heck you want to call it, to put into the background for this section. So I just used this very soulful old Super Smash Bros. Melee render for this short section. And look at Luigi flying there. I really wish there would be more games using these kind of renders anymore, but obviously nowadays the renders also look freaking amazing. Back in the day they looked amazing too, but there's something very soulful about these early 3D renders. Even though, they look kinda scary. I don't know, look at freaking Peach or Link. They look kinda spooky. So let's get right into the games. First off, we got it Sidetrack, which is one of the best arcade racing games you can play on any console, not just on the Wii. And I'm not the biggest racing fan to begin with, so this and Mario Kart Wii were basically the only racing games I've played on the Wii. But if you can get this, you will love it if you love arcade racing games. And there was also a sequel called Excite Bots, which sadly never released in Europe, but I heard it's even better and even more fun. So if you're American, just get it. If you're European, you can import it, I think, and it would work on a normal Wii. But, emulation, wink, wink. And the cool thing about this game was, even though it's very stupid in a way, you could put your own music onto an SD card and play it on the Wii in the game if you put the SD card into the console. And obviously I could just go on YouTube, listen to my music there while playing, and yeah, it's, Zelda game of all time. Twilight Princess. Obviously it's just a port, but everyone wanted to play it on the Wii instead, right? Because it came out at release. And obviously the controls were basically just regular controls. You could just, press a button instead of wiggling your sword around. Obviously Skyward Sword at the end of the lifetime of the Wii did it way better, but this is still overall the greater game for me. Even though Skyward Sword is also fun, but I'm not going to list it. You can go buy it on the Switch and waste your money. Hardware smooth moves. It's just way too much fun with friends, and even if you don't have friends like me nowadays, it's still a little silly game that can be all fun by yourself, just like most things in life. I believe in you, my friendless friends out there, and you can have fun even without other people. Hopefully. Please. And if you don't, I will be your friend. Super Paper Mario. I never expected to ever quite a Mario game, to be honest, but this one actually made me do it. Fantastic story with an amazing cast, writing, perfect OST. I kinda just love everything about it. Obviously I know for many people this is where the series began to decline. I never understood the hate it got back in the day just for being different, and I'm kinda happy that also nowadays more people see it in a better light now, because the newer Paper Mario games change even more, and kinda, I don't want to say anything about Sticker Star or Color Splash, but if you know that those are the kind of games to just make you wish I want to be a boomer and wish for the old times to come back. Metroid Prime 3 and the trilogy itself, considered the weakest Prime title in the trilogy by many, including me, but I gotta say 2 is my favorite, so for me it's 2, 1, 3. It doesn't make it a bad game at all, it just is still an amazing game. It is just slightly less of a masterpiece than the first 2 ones. And obviously the trilogy makes the games even better because all of them now use the aim controls of the Wii, and that's not even a hot take. I think it plays way better on the Wii than it is with the GameCube controller. Obviously nowadays you can also check out the Metroid Prime hack things for the Dolphin, where you can even play with a keyboard and mouse, which also works fantastic. And let's hope one day the trilogy will get ported to the Switch or the next Nintendo console, please. Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, a worthy follow-up to Path of Radiance, and I got lucky one day that I bought it from GameStop for 10 bucks. Obviously nowadays if you want to play this in Path of Radiance, you gotta pay a lot, except if you use emulation, obviously. And it was my first strategy game in this kind of sense, and it's kicked my ass, but I still loved it a lot, and to this day I still suck at them, but I still love the Fire Emblem games, and this is one of the finest ones you can get, especially if you don't agree with how the series kind of evolved with Awakening, because this still really feels like the really classic ones. The Galaxy games. Galaxy 1 was already fantastic, but 2, ooh, Jesus Christus from Nazareth, how did they manage to make it even better? Also introduced Rosalina, which is the best character in the franchise since then, and they've never introduced any better character. And I really want to play hide and seek with her on her observatory, but instead of hiding anywhere sneaky, I would just hide under her dress and probably get sucked into a different universe, and yeah, I would still enjoy it actually. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. I know for many people it was a disappointment, but for me, I never minded the slower tempo of the game, and I'm not a competitive player, so I do not care about the removal of wave dashing or decreased hit stun or any kind of that kind of stuff. And if I ever see another casual player complaining about tripping, I'm gonna shove a banana into their mouth and tell them to make Donkey Kong noises, because why the heck would anyone complain about such a silly thing when only playing it with friends? That's never something I've quite understood. But anyways, it quickly replaced Melee in my mind, and since I never really looked back. And the lead up to the release was insane. I still remember getting the monthly GamePro issue in my mail, and the first thing I always did was checking the DVD, and I put the Brawl trailer onto it as part of the E3 coverage, and seeing it just made me go, how is this a real game? The details of Mario's outfit, Kirby's even rounder, everything looks more edgy and cool. Who the heck is that angel dude? Because nobody freaking knows Kid Icarus, especially not at that kind of time. Zero Suit Samus, I literally fucking came, also this timing was perfect. And is that hacking Snake and checking the dojo every day just pure hype? Smash is still hype nowadays, but this was like, it was amazing, and it was just, I can't even put it into words, like it was freaking amazing, amazeballs, how old people like me would still say nowadays. Endless Ocean 1 and 2. If you ever want to know what the most relaxing games of all time are, here you go. Even though I have a big fear of deep water, but even that couldn't stop me from enjoying these games so much. I don't even know why. There's just something special about them. Like, you can just play them, go for a swim, and see some cute animals and some really scary things too. So obviously don't play it if you're very afraid of the big blue ocean. But even then, just play them. Like, they have this very relaxing atmosphere about them. Mario Kart Wii. Even though for me it was weaker than Double Dash, I still had an absolute blast with it, because it was the first Mario Kart I played online, and I put thousands of hours into this game, and I bought it at release day because I sold my Game Boy collection back in the day for just 70 bucks, even though nowadays it would be at least 500 bucks, just so I could play the game at release with my freaking Mario Kart / Nintendo clan. And yeah, people really had clans back on the Wii. It was still very fun, but I regret selling that collection to this day. And since then I've never sold another video game, luckily. WarioWare Shake It. I feel kinda bad that Wario, aside from Wario stuff, hasn't had a game since this one, but at least it was a pretty good jumping one. And maybe one day he will get a comeback, right, Bart Bros? Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. Do I even have to say anything about these two games? Very simple, and most people probably only used it to play bowling after the first few times, but it perfectly showed what the Wii can do. And I bet it's one of those rare games that even your parents wanted to play with you for a bit before they never play the game again. Because, well, there's not much to do, and Resort was a perfect follow-up to it, that you could even have much more fun with, because Wii Sport was more like a test one, but Wii Sports Resort really has a lot of stuff to do even if you play by yourself. Disaster Day of Crisis. Found it for $10 just like Fire Emblem at GameStop once, and at that price I thought, hey, this looks pretty cool, and I've heard how it never released in America, so now I can brag about it on the internet that I own this. It's not a must-have game really, but it's fun all the way through, and everyone who loves explosions and other boom boom stuff should look into getting it. I remember Reggie saying this game is terrible, and he's probably the biggest reason why it never came out in America, but hear me out. They could have just entered a partnership with Michael Bay and made him say how cool this game is, and maybe even lie and say he worked on it too a little bit, and people would have bought it, because this came out at like the hype of Transformers. Everyone was like, wow, Michael Bay, boom boom explosions, and yeah. Maybe I should work in marketing one day. Wii Fit. This actually helped me getting into shape, you know, hard to believe, but it was mostly because of my desire to have sexual intercourse with the Wii Fit trainer. I was a little bit chubby back in the day, and this game actually helped me to get into routine of doing things to lose the weight, because having someone to compliment you on your progress feels really heckin' good. Imagine if it comes from someone as hot as the Wii Fit trainer too. You know, that's the biggest reason. Nowadays, it's really hacking bare bones, and I guess Wii Fit Plus is the better product, but I never owned it, so I can't really say anything about it. But overall, I just wanted to include it because I wanted everyone to know I love the Wii Fit trainer, I love the inclusion in Smash, and I was really sad that they never put in a crossover with it into Ring Fit Adventure. I really thought they would put her into the game, but they sadly never did. Buy Ring Fit. And this maybe, if you can find it for a good price, even though the balance board is fucking useless. Sin and Punishment Star Successor. If you like on-wheel shooters and never played this, then I have one question for you. Why the heck not? I normally never cared about these kind of games, but I bought it because I thought, hey, people really seem to love the first one, and there's no second one, and if this one flops, well, there won't be a third one. So I saw it as some kind of quest to buy it, despite maybe not liking it. Luckily I loved it, but unluckily it flopped. In general, if you love on-wheel shooters, the Wii is the console for you, with the Dead Space and Resident Evil on-wheel shooters. And I think I'm saying on-wheel shooters a little bit too much, but you know, buy this, emulate this, get it. I mean, it's also on the Wii U shop, but who the fuck owns a Wii U? Metroid Other M. I know, hear me out, I know most people will think there's something wrong with me, but if you just blend out the story, you still have a fairly okay game here. Just try really, really, really hard not to let the story hamper your enjoyment of this. Obviously, it can't hold a candle to the old 2D games, it can't hold a candle to the Prime games. It's still a fun action game that you can play, have fun with it. Maybe don't even imagine this as a Metroid game, even though Samus with short hair is a big cutie. But other than that, don't care about anything that happens in the story. Just don't, please. Xenoblade Chronicles, the game that actually made me really, really fall into love with JRPGs. I still was a fan of them, maybe not the biggest, like I still enjoyed something like Final Fantasy IX, but this game just made me think, wow. Beautiful soundtrack, big landscapes with so much stuff to explore, a story that really makes you want to know what happens next, with twists everywhere, especially later on, a nice cast of characters, a decent combat system, everything about it just kinda clicks in your head. It also made me check out Xenosaga and Gears, and I can't thank this game enough for making me do that, because Xenogears is really, maybe not a life-changing experience, but it has the best story in a video game in general. But I gotta say, Xenoblade 2 or Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is even better. And now you can tear me apart for making that comment. I know what's gonna happen. Okay, now it's time for my hottest hot take in the whole video. While you can enjoy some Xenoblade HD locations in the background, please buy the game, just just do it. Third-party support was never Nintendo's strongest point after the Super Nintendo. The Nintendo 64 almost had like nothing at all, while the GameCube was decently supported, especially by Capcom thanks to the Capcom 5 deal, or more like Capcom 4 deal, or the exclusive Resident Evil remake, or the timed exclusivity of Resident Evil 4. It only missed out on some heavy hitters like the GTA games or Metal Gear Solid 2, things like that. One game that I was always sad about that the GameCube never got it was Burnout 3. Like, why put Burnout 2 on the Cube but not 3? But anyways, let's get back to the Wii. The Wii is a special case since the Wii was not compatible to the other consoles like the 360 or PlayStation 3. So while the GameCube mostly got ports that were on the same level or sometimes even better, like Resident Evil 4 looked way better on the Cube than it did on the PlayStation 2. The Wii just did not have the power that is required for downports from that console generation, but instead some older games also received a new updated version like Okami, Bully. Resident Evil 4 on the Wii is still the best version of the game because of the controls. I'm not quite sure about the Switch version, but for me the Wii also has the best cover. Nowadays we get the Switch and it gets a ton of ports. Skyrim, Doom Eternal, Witcher 3, Alien Isolation, Hellblade, the list just goes on and on, but I'm not interested in games that I can get on a different console in better quality and price. And the mobility factor of the console is of no concern to me. I prefer playing those kind of games at home on a big screen to get really immersed in them instead of playing them on the train or bus or where I can, play it, because that kinda distracts me. For most indie games, they can be played in short bursts, that's a different story, and I love how the Switch became such a big indie game machine. So let's get back to the Wii again, like I'm always off-tracking. Since the Wii couldn't receive simple ports, and some developers still wanted to make some money with it, they just made original games. Instead of trying to port something like Soul Calibur 4 or 5 to the Wii, they instead made a game for the Wii called Soul Calibur Legends, for example, which was, kinda lacking for sure, but it was still fun. Or maybe I just have really low standards, and it's totally fine if people prefer simple late ports on the Nintendo consoles. But this generation for me in the Wii era was like developers making an exclusive game for the Wii instead of just porting their stuff, and that's kind of what I prefer. Obviously, it takes more people to make new games, they can suck, so a port is the better logical way for the developer to support a console instead of just, making a new exclusive game for a console that could even flop. But yeah, that's just a hot take, and I know why it isn't the way it is anymore, but I just kind of miss these third-party games that were, not the best, but just something new. And now it is time to show you some of those third-party games. No More Heroes 1 and 2. I don't think I have to say too much about these games, except that you should go buy them on the Switch or Steam right now, wherever you want to buy them, and play them if you never played them before. Really great story. It's Suda51 at its best. Really great. Obviously, it's more fun if you go buy them on the Switch nowadays. Like, obviously, you could also go buy them on the Wii, play it on the Wii, but it's more fun to play it on the Switch and not on Steam, actually, because you can wiggle and waggle and you shit around. Yay. Lost in Shadow, a fun puzzle side-scrolling game with a little bit of combat here and there where you control a shadow. Very atmospheric, and it's a really fun experience, and it does not look like the best, but trust me, it is really fun, and it will maybe melt your brain at certain parts, or maybe I just have a very tiny brain. Actually, that's probably the reason why I kind of got stuck sometimes here and there, even though it's not that hard. Fragile Dreams, one of my personal favorite video games of all time. The gameplay is on the slow side, but the atmosphere, music, characters, basically anything except the combat about it is just great. I like to describe it as a teeny weeby Silent Hill back in the day, even though it's not really that scary, especially since I recently replayed it. It still holds really well up, especially on an emulator. It's one of the prettiest games you can get on the Wii, and this deserves a video all on its own, and I will probably work on it one day. 2025, I will release it. Zack and Wiki, a nice looking puzzle game by Capcom that is hard to put into just a few words. If you like puzzle games and you never played this before, you should get wild on it. It may look like a kids game, and it is kind of like a kids game, but even though there's some puzzles that will also, if you're an adult, make your brain think, wow, nice puzzle. It's a very cute game, and I really wish there would be a new one, but Capcom, I don't know. I don't even think they know that this exists in their vault of IPs. Boomblocks 1 and 2, a game made with the help of Steven Spielberg. Yep, he actually wanted to make a game to play with his kids, and this is what we got. It's basically a Jenga game, but in better. It also has tons of single player stuff, but well, it's mostly fun with a bunch of friends. I never expected to have so much fun with these two games when I first saw some videos of it online of people playing it, and I just had to get it because they looked like they had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun with it too. And I did not get disappointed. I really wish we'll get a new similar game to it, and you know, same with Second Wiki. EA here probably doesn't even know they have this IP, and you know, they don't see any value in it, even though this would be great on the Switch too again. Monster Hunter 3 or 3, however you want to call it, my first Monster Hunter game, and I loved it. Sadly, the servers are gone, and I'm pretty sure it makes no sense to go back to it except if you want to play it solo and miss the water fights for whatever reason. Those were like the one thing that made me think, okay, you know, it was something new, I guess, for many people. I did not enjoy those, and I hope they will never return, but you know, some people like torture. I like torture on myself in multiple ways, but not in this kind of way. But it's still a fun game, and maybe for nostalgic reasons to go back into it. And maybe there's even private servers. Muramasa. This is the kind of game that does not deserve to be stuck on a Wii or Vita, except if you played on Dolphin to make it look as amazing as possible. The art style, amazing. Please give us a remaster of it on any console. I beg you, Vanillaware. The gameplay is fun, but the most fun you will have in the game is being stunned by the amazing art style, basically just like any other Vanillaware game, just to be honest. The gameplay is still fun, but look at the art, I'm cooming. Yeah, you know, Silent Hill Shattered Memories, the last good Silent Hill game. Enough said. Red Steel 2. The first game was a rather generic and boring shooter. It was a launch game, obviously. It is still a game to check out if you find it for super cheap and you want to just play it. But this game, Red Steel 2, is amazingly fun with a really unique setting because it plays in a Wild West Chinese landscape with a cool shaded look to it. Shooting stuff with your weapons is cool, but nothing's cooler than swinging your katana around, and it works almost perfectly with V Motion Plus. This is one of my biggest secret gems. And now I will leave the Redditor mode again because I normally hate saying hidden gem, but this is one. Trust me, it's one of the best shooters you will probably play. Trauma Team. If you ever wanted to become a doctor as a kiddo, you probably played them. It's basically a soap drama story where you have to save the world and your patients. Better have a steady hand for this one. It's like the old game where you pull out something out of a guy's body as a board game that you probably played with your parents. Every time you miss, it makes like a sound or whatever. It's that kind of game. It's really fun. Also, check out the DS games. Obviously, this is a Wii video, but DS games were also fun. If you really love it, it really goes deep into this soap drama kind of story. It really makes you think, how can this story be like this? And check it out. And yeah, it's fun. So this was basically a little list of third-party games that I would recommend you to check out if you never really look too hard into third-party games on the Wii or Wii games in general. Obviously, there's many more stuff to find out there, but these are like a good mix between puzzle and action adventure, some horror here and there, and I really hope you will check them out and have as much fun as I had with them. So, this was my video about why I love the Wii so much. Obviously, there was like this really hot take about third-party games and why I prefer those to ports. But overall, I think it's a very reasonable take. And there's also some personal stories about the Wii that I have, but obviously I could tell those, but they're kind of boring, and they just made me really fall in love with the Wii, because it was also the first console I really owned close to launch. And shout out to my mom who managed to get me a Wii at that time, because even nowadays at Christmas I can always hear her say, hey, it was freaking hard to get a Wii at freaking release day. Hey, normally I don't like to do this kind of stuff, but if you like the video, give it a like, hit the subscribe button as hard and fast as you can to break it and make it burn, and it is freaking cringe. I mean, if you do whatever you want, and you know, yeah, this was freaking cringe. I hate myself.